Imagine a life defined not by financial worry, but, by freedom.
Yeah, a life where security isn't just a dream.
Exactly. Where opportunity is just there. We all kind of picture that, right? But what if getting there wasn't about luck? Or some big windfall?
You mean like it's about the small stuff?
Yeah, the small, consistent decisions, the things you're maybe doing or maybe avoiding right now.
And that framework is so important because, like you said, just looking at 12, things can feel, well, overwhelming.
A bit much, yeah.
Right. And our analysis, looking deep into this, shows these aren't just random traits someone picked out. They're foundational behaviors. They actually create this positive feedback loop. They represent a really specific mindset towards time, learning, failure.
Things that have to come before the money.
Exactly. They must precede the big financial success. So what we want to offer you today is that deep, almost technical understanding of why these mindsets are, structurally necessary if you want to build wealth that lasts.
Okay, let's dig in then. Let's unpack this, starting at the foundation. We're calling this first section the inner game.
The inner game. I like that.
Yeah, it's about the core psychology, right? The structure you need inside your head to build wealth and maybe just as important, to keep it.
Maintaining it is key, too.
It's all about how these future millionaires think, how they process time, how they handle responsibility, and what they do when they hit roadblocks, because everyone hits them.
Absolutely unavoidable. So the very first sign, the one that kind of sets the whole direction, sign number one, you think long term. This one is crucial. The sources are really clear on this. People who build wealth consciously fight that human urge for instant gratification. They defer pleasure, deferring pleasure. That's the fundamental piece. And often, let's be honest, the painful piece.
It's not easy.
No. And what's really fascinating here scientifically is the psychology behind it. There's this thing called hyperbolic discounting.
Hyperbolic discounting. Okay, break that down.
Basically, we're hardwired, deep in our brains to want a small reward right now, much more than we want a big reward later.
The bird in the hand.
Kind of like that, yeah. The further away that future reward is, the less valuable it feels to our, primitive brain systems.
Okay, that makes sense. It feels abstract. So how do the people who succeed, the future millionaires, how do they actually manage to overcome that, to bridge that gap and avoid getting caught by this discounting?
Well, they don't just hope for the future. They create a really vivid, internalized picture of the 5-year outcome or the 10-year outcome.
So they make it feel more real.
Exactly. They almost treat that future self like a really important client, someone they have to deliver for today.
That's an interesting way to frame it.
And the source material gives 2 really good specific examples of this long-term focus in action. One is obviously financial.
Right, investing versus spending.
Choosing to invest any extra money instead of, just blowing it on stuff that depreciates. That's the classic one. But the other one is intellectual, and maybe even harder.
Okay.
Choosing to learn a difficult, high-value skill. Something like coding, or maybe advanced statistics, or really complex regulations in an industry. Something that won't give you a big financial payoff for maybe years.
Yeah, years. Wow. I like that distinction because it highlights the sacrifice isn't just about money, is it?
Not at all.
Choosing to spend your evenings learning something complex that won't pay off for 5 years, that takes a huge amount of immediate mental comfort, effort, energy, stuff you could use just relaxing today.
It's a massive trade-off.
Yeah.
You're deliberately investing your mental capital, your energy now, for something way down the line.
Yeah.
We'll definitely talk more about mental capital later.
Yeah, feels like a key concept.
It really is. You're trading that instant comfort, that ease, for delayed but hopefully exponential growth.
Okay.
And because this trade-off is so hard, it makes the next couple of habits we need to discuss, accountability and resilience, absolutely essential.
Because the payoff isn't coming tomorrow.
Exactly. If you're playing the long game, you will have long stretches where the rewards feel like 0 or even negative. You're putting in effort and not seeing results yet. That makes sense. That flows perfectly into talking about accountability then. Let's maybe group these 2 together. Sign 12. Taking responsibility for your life, and sign 11. Staying optimistic in hard times. Yeah, they're closely linked. Responsibility, the way the sources describe it, isn't just about being a good person, like a moral thing. It's actually a functional strategy.
Okay, functional how?
It's the habit of owning every decision you make. The good ones, sure, but especially the bad ones.
The mistakes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Think about it. If you're struggling financially and your go-to explanation is blaming external factors, my boss is unfair, the market crashed, the government did this or that,
Yeah.
you're pointing fingers.
Right. And by doing that, you've basically given away your power to change your own situation. You're waiting for the world to change for you.
Ah, okay, I see.
The inverse, the wealth-building habit, is owning the outcome. Because if you own it, even if it's painful, you keep the ability to adjust the things you can control. Your actions, your strategy, your effort.
So it sounds like accountability is almost like the starting line for any kind of improvement. If you don't take responsibility, you're just stuck. Stuck in being a victim, maybe, waiting for something outside yourself to fix things.
Precisely. It's the foundation for what psychologists call self-efficacy, that belief that you can actually influence things.
Okay.
And that feeling, that sense of efficacy, feeds directly into sign 11, which people often get wrong. Staying optimistic in hard times.
Yeah, people might think that just means always smiling and pretending everything's fine.
Right. And that's not it at all. This doesn't mean ignoring reality or being, blindly cheerful when things are objectively bad.
So what does it mean then?
It means having this deep-seated functional belief, there's that word again, functional, that challenges can be overcome. Maybe not easily, maybe not quickly, but through effort, learning, and changing your approach.
So it's more like a pragmatic optimism, action-oriented.
Exactly. Pragmatic is a great word for it. Like, if I make a calculated investment and I lose money, blind optimism might say, oh, it'll magically work out next time.
Yeah, wishing.
Whereas pragmatic optimism says, okay, this setback really hurts, but I have the ability, the agency, and hopefully the tools to figure out what went wrong, tweak the plan, learn from it, and try again smarter.
That distinction feels really important, vital even.
It is vital, because the crucial link here is that this functional pragmatic optimism is what fuels persistence.
Ah, sticking with it.
Yes. Wealth, especially significant wealth, is very often created in the 10th year of trying something, not the first year.
Right, it rarely happens overnight.
Almost never. So if you don't genuinely believe that the challenge, even if it's massive, is ultimately surmountable, what do?
You quit?
You quit. You quit too soon. The sources consistently show that persistence is the secret multiplier. It's what turns those small incremental improvements over time into those huge exponential payoffs later on.
This feels like it connects back to the long-term thinking from sign 1. You need the optimism to fuel the persistence required for the long-term plan to actually work.
They're all interwoven.
Okay, this brings us to what I think is maybe the ultimate lever in this whole inner game section. And it's a concept I really want us to spend some time on because I think it has such high leverage potential for anyone listening.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Which one?
You value time over money.
Ah, yes. Absolutely fundamental.
The core idea here is that time is the only resource that's truly non-renewable. You can't make more of it. You can't scale it up. Money, you can always potentially make more money. Not time.
And if you truly internalize that, if you really see time as the ultimate finite resource, it forces a complete shift in how you make decisions, a strategic shift.
How so?
The wealth-building mindset always seeks to optimize for time, even if it costs a bit of money up front.
Okay, give me some examples. What does that look like in practice?
Well, the practical habits the source material points to are things like delegating low-value tasks that someone else can do.
Like hiring someone to mow the lawn or clean the house?
Could be, or even simpler things in a business context.
Yeah.
But also investing in efficiency tools, software, apps, physical tools that save you time, and creating time-saving systems for recurring things in your life or work.
Okay.
So for instance, spending, say, $500 on really good financial planning software that saves you maybe 10 hours of tedious manual reconciliation work every single month.
Yeah.
That's seen not as an expense, but as an investment with a massive, massive return on your time, your most valuable asset.
Okay, but let me push back a little here, just playing devil's advocate for the listener.
Please do.
For someone who's currently, say, making minimum wage or really living paycheck to paycheck, the idea of spending $500 on software,
That's impossible.
or even delegating a task for $20 an hour, that might literally mean not paying the electricity bill this month. Does the source material offer any way to start valuing time, like an entry-level approach that doesn't require having extra cash lying around?
That's a really critical question.
Yeah.
And yes, the source material does acknowledge that the ability to delegate financially is something that scales up as your resources grow. It's not necessarily the starting point for everyone.
So what is the starting point?
The mindset starts much earlier. The entry-level practice, the thing anyone can do right now, is tackling decision fatigue.
Decision fatigue, you mean getting tired from making too many choices?
Exactly. Valuing your time, even with no money, means actively reducing the mental energy, the bandwidth you spend on low-stakes, repetitive decisions every single day.
Like what to wear, what to have for breakfast.
Precisely. What to wear, what to eat, when exactly you check your email, how you process routine mail, all those little things.
So it's about simplifying systems, like those famous examples of, Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg wearing the same basic outfit every day.
That's a perfect example.
Yeah.
Or batching all your small administrative tasks into one block of time instead of letting them interrupt you all day.
Okay, I get it.
That is valuing your time, but without needing to hire anyone or buy expensive software. Every simple decision you eliminate, every recurring task you automate into a simple routine, frees up mental energy.
And that energy is the real capital.
That conserved energy is the initial capital. That's the currency you can then reinvest into the other important wealth-building habits we're talking about.
Yeah.
Like using that saved mental space to learn a new skill, which was sign 2, wasn't it?
Sign 2 is learning, yeah. And sign 3 was calculated risk.
Right. Or using that bandwidth to actually plan your next calculated risk. You're optimizing for mental bandwidth first, not just hours on the clock. It's an intellectual shift, a psychological one, that any listener can start applying today, no matter what their income is.
That reframing feels crucial. Thinking like someone who builds wealth means optimizing for mental efficiency first. Financial delegation comes later as you scale.
You've got it.
So if you're still caught up in saving a few pennies by doing really low value, repetitive tasks yourself, tasks that drain your mental energy.
You're being penny wise and pound foolish, as the saying goes. But in this case, the pounds are your future dollars and, just as importantly, your future mental bandwidth.
Okay, that wraps up the inner game nicely. Mindset, ownership, time focus. Now let's shift gears.
Let's move to the engine room. Exactly. Section 2. The engine of growth.
Yeah.
This is where we look at the active stuff, right? The behaviors related to actually developing yourself intellectually and maybe entrepreneurially. Yeah, how future millionaires fuel their growth, how they get knowledge, how they handle uncertainty, and how they create value that can actually scale up. Okay, let's kick off this engine with sign 2. You're obsessed with learning. The source doesn't just say they like learning, it uses the word obsessed, characterizing wealthy people as lifelong obsessive students of, well, everything.
Yeah, that obsession part is really key. This isn't, casually reading one self-help book a year and calling it done.
Right.
It's treating knowledge acquisition like a critical, continuous business function for yourself, like R&D for your own life and career. Okay. And the methods are pretty straightforward.
Yeah, the methods mentioned are accessible to most people now. Constantly reading books, articles, deep dives, listening to specialized podcasts or audiobooks, taking online courses, actively seeking out mentors or people who know more than you.
But it's the result that matters more than the method.
Absolutely. The result of all this activity is building what the source explicitly calls mental capital.
Mental capital. Okay, let's pause on that term again. It came up briefly before. What does the compounding effect of this continuous learning, this building of mental capital, actually look like in the real world?
Well, think about it this way. It's nonlinear growth. If you only read stuff directly related to your current job, your immediate field, you'll probably get better at your job. That's linear improvement. Okay, makes sense.
But if you read deeply, and I mean deeply, in maybe 3 seemingly unrelated fields, let's say ancient history, behavioral economics, and advanced logistics.
Okay, random mix. Seems random, right? But doing that gives you the ability to connect dots, to synthesize concepts in ways that your competitors, who are stuck in just one vertical, simply cannot see.
You can see patterns they miss.
Exactly. This cross-pollination creates unique insights, sparks innovative ideas, and opens up opportunities for high-leverage value creation.
Which ultimately translates into financial capital.
Often, yes. The source suggests that the difference between someone who is just rich and someone who builds lasting wealth is frequently the depth and the breadth of their mental capital.
Wow. Okay. So this obsession with learning isn't just about being smart, it's strategic. It's what enables the next really crucial step, which involves uncertainty.
Yes, it fuels the ability to take calculated risks, which leads us right into those necessary twin habits for growth.
Right. Sign 3 is taking calculated risks. And you stressed that word before. Calculated? It's the absolute key qualifier. This is not about being reckless or just gambling.
No throwing darts at a board. No. It's about smart risk-taking, informed risk-taking, rooted in the knowledge and mental capital you built up from sign 2. It's the opposite of just always playing it safe, always choosing the path of least resistance.
Okay. And a calculated risk. in this context? What does that mean specifically?
It means you've done the homework. You've rigorously assessed the potential downside. What's the worst that could happen if this fails? And you've decided you're comfortable with that cost. You could absorb that loss.
Why?
Because the potential upside, if it works, is asymmetric, meaning the potential gain is vastly larger than the potential loss.
Okay, examples.
The sources mention things like starting a side hustle that has a real chance of failing but could become something big, or investing in a new, unproven technology that looks highly disruptive, or even making a big geographical move for a much better career trajectory, even though it means leaving your comfort zone.
Okay, but doing any of those things requires accepting that failure is a real possibility, right? If the upside is huge and asymmetric, the odds of it actually working might be pretty low.
Absolutely. You must accept a significant probability of failure to chase those kinds of returns. And that brings us directly to the other twin habit, sign 6, not afraid of failure, which sounds counterintuitive. Shouldn't successful people be afraid of failing? Well, the data presented suggests the opposite, especially for entrepreneurs. People who build significant wealth often fail more often than the average person, sometimes much more often.
More often? How does that work?
They just approach failure differently. They tend to fail faster, maybe fail cheaper, and fail earlier in the process while learning.
Okay, let's maybe break down the math a bit there. Why is failure almost a requirement if you want those big asymmetric returns?
Okay, think of it like a venture capital portfolio. A simple analogy. A VC firm invests in, say, 10 startups. They go in knowing that probably 6 or 7 of those will fail completely. Maybe return 0. Another 2 or 3 might just return the original investment, maybe a tiny profit. Modest success, but one, maybe just one, hits it big. That's the asymmetric payoff. It generates a 50x or 100x the return, and that single winner pays for all the failures and makes the entire fund incredibly successful.
Ah, I see. The home run pays for all the strikeouts.
Exactly. So if you only ever took risks where you were, like 99% sure you'd succeed, what kind of returns would you get?
Average ones, safe ones, median returns.
Right, symmetrical returns. To create real wealth, you have to expose yourself to opportunities where the chance of failure is actually pretty high, but the potential reward, if it works, is almost unbounded.
So the defining thing isn't that they avoid failure, it's how they process it when it happens.
Precisely. They see setbacks not as personal defeats, but as essential data points. Lessons learned, like the cheapest form of market research you can get.
Okay, that approach didn't work. What did we learn? Let's adjust.
Yes, and this mindset builds incredible resilience. So the crucial connection here is that these 3 signs learning, sign 2, calculated risk, sign 3, and not fearing failure, sign 6, they form a single interlocking system.
How so?
Your mental capital from learning informs how you calculate the risk. Your functional optimism, which we talked about in the inner game, sign 11, and the resilience you build by treating failures as lessons ensure you keep going. You persist through the inevitable setbacks until you finally hit one of those asymmetric payoffs.
It's like an iterative loop. Learn, risk, fail, learn, adjust, risk again.
That's a perfect description of the engine. And this whole iterative process, this engine, needs to be pointed towards something meaningful and has ultimately focus on creating value on a larger scale. Which brings us neatly to sign 10. You solve problems, not just do tasks.
Yes.
This is a major mindset shift. It's the moment the person building wealth stops focusing primarily on their own effort or the tasks they complete and starts focusing on the impact they can have. People who become wealthy, the sources say, are always looking for ways to solve problems that affect a wider system. An industry bottleneck, a customer frustration, an inefficiency that impacts lots of people.
So their internal dialogue changes.
Completely. It shifts from, okay, what tasks did I check off my list today, to something more like, what big nagging problem did I see today and how could we potentially fix it or improve it systemically?
It's the difference between, say, being a really good employee who processes 100 invoices super efficiently. That's completing a task well.
Right. Valuable, but a task.
Versus being the leader who steps back, sees the entire invoicing system is clunky and outdated, and designs a whole new streamlined process that saves the company millions of dollars.
That's the solution mindset. That's solving the problem, not just doing the task.
And that's where the leverage comes in.
That's exactly where the leverage is. The core indicator is this natural inclination to seek leverage. If you solve a problem for just one person, you typically get rewarded in proportion to that effort. But if you create a scalable solution, maybe it's a piece of software, a better process design, a new market entry strategy, that solves a problem for thousands or even millions of people.
Then you capture just a tiny fraction of the value created for each of them.
Exactly. And those tiny fractions add up exponentially. This is fundamentally why task performers tend to get paid linearly based on time or output, while problem solvers, the ones who create scalable solutions, have the potential to be paid exponentially based on impact.
So the mentality is about looking for the systemic fault, the root cause, not just efficiently managing the symptoms.
You've nailed it. Find the leverage point.
Okay, this engine of growth section makes a lot of sense. Learning fuels, calculated risks, resilience handles the failures, and it's all aimed at solving big problems.
That's the core loop.
All right, so we've got the mindset from the inner game, we've got the fuel from the engine of growth. Now we need to talk about actually making it all work consistently day to day, the practical side.
Yes, the execution phase. How do you maintain this? How do you scale it? And critically, how do you protect the wealth you're starting to accumulate? This involves discipline, structure, strategy. Let's start with what feels like the absolute bedrock habit. And again, one that's available to literally every listener right now, regardless of income. Sign 5. You live below your means. The absolute foundation of financial sustainability. Can't build anything lasting without this.
And the definition is pretty simple, right?
Super simple. Even when your income goes up, your spending doesn't automatically rise to match it. Or at least not proportionally.
You keep a gap. You maintain and ideally widen the gap between what you earn and what you spend. The source details the core pillars here. Saving aggressively, investing consistently, and actively, consciously avoiding lifestyle inflation. Lifestyle inflation. That feels like a silent killer of wealth potential.
It really is. It's that psychological trap where as soon as you get a raise or a bonus, you immediately convince yourself that you deserve a nicer car, a bigger house, fancier vacations.
Yeah, the treat yourself mentality gone wild.
Right. And often these are things that come with higher ongoing costs, more insurance, more maintenance, more taxes. So you end up earning more money, but you haven't actually bought yourself any more freedom because your expenses ate up all the gains. You're still on the treadmill.
Just a slightly nicer treadmill.
Exactly. And the strategic goal of living below your means, of creating that gap, is often misunderstood. It's not necessarily about living like a monk forever.
It's not about permanent deprivation.
Not usually, no. It's about accumulating margin, financial margin. Some people call it FU money or freedom fund.
Okay, margin. Why is that margin so important tactically?
Because that margin, that surplus capital you build up, is the tactical fuel that allows you to do all the other important things. It lets you take those calculated risks we just talked about, sign 3.
Because you can afford the potential loss.
Right. It allows you to walk away from a toxic job or a bad boss without panicking. It lets you invest in those efficiency tools to buy back your time. Sign 4. It provides the seed capital to fund that side hustle. Sign 9.
So without cash margin.
If you have zero cash margin, living right on the edge, you have zero tactical flexibility. You're trapped. You need that next paycheck, which completely destroys your negotiating power and makes taking any kind of risk terrifying.
So, sign 5, living below your means, it's basically the fuel tank for the entire engine we discussed in section 2.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
If you don't master this habit, if your tank is always empty, any gains you make from learning, risk-taking, problem-solving, they're either dramatically slowed down or completely neutralized because you just don't have the resources to capitalize on them or sustain the effort.
Okay, super clear. But keeping that fuel tank consistently full, especially when temptations arise, that requires serious effort, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Consistent, sometimes boring application of effort.
Which leads us perfectly into the next sign for execution. Sign 8. You're self-disciplined.
Right. The sources seem to draw a really sharp line here. Discipline is what separates the dreamers, the people who just want wealth, from the achievers who actually build it. It's the mechanism. It's the bridge that turns those long-term goals we talked about, sign 1, into daily, often unglamorous action.
And the signs of discipline, they show up everywhere, not just in managing money.
Exactly. The manifestations are pervasive, and importantly, they seem to be transferable. We're talking about habitual consistency in things like budgeting, yes, but also in continuously honing your professional craft, dedicating time to learning, sign 2 again, and even, as the sources mention, maintaining physical health routines like regular exercise.
Okay, that's interesting. The transferability. So the discipline it takes to, say, wake up early every morning and go for a run, even when you don't feel like it.
Yeah.
That same discipline muscle helps you stick to your investment plan even when the market is scary, or helps you put in the hours on your side project after a long day at your main job.
That's the key insight from the analysis. Discipline in one area seems to train the underlying muscle needed for discipline in other seemingly unrelated areas, like finance. For example, the discipline to automatically transfer a percentage of your income to investments before it even hits your main checking account so you don't have to rely on willpower later.
That requires setting up a system and sticking to it.
Yes.
And that connects to something important. It's all about building strong systems that eventually reduce the need for constant, exhausting willpower. Because willpower runs out.
Willpower is a finite resource. It gets depleted throughout the day. Discipline is about turning those desired behaviors into automated habits, into systems that run almost on autopilot.
Okay, so once you have that behavioral infrastructure, that discipline in place, you're ready to start multiplying the returns more strategically.
Exactly. You've got the foundation, you've got the engine, you've got the discipline to keep it running. Now you can think about diversification and leverage. Which brings us to sign 9. You seek multiple streams of income. This feels like a big mindset shift for a lot of people. It's huge. That conscious decision, that refusal to rely solely on a single paycheck from one employer. The sources flag that as one of the strongest indicators that someone is truly on the path to building wealth, not just managing a salary.
And why is it so powerful? What functions does it serve? Well, primarily 2 things: shock absorption and acceleration. Okay, break those down. Shock absorption.
Think about risk. Relying on 100% of your income from one job, one employer. In today's economy, that's arguably the highest risk financial position you can be in. You're one layoff, one company downturn, one bad boss away from zero income.
Yeah, that's precarious.
Multiple streams, maybe a job plus some freelancing or rental income or dividends from investments or a side business. They de-risk your life. They provide shock absorption. If one stream dries up unexpectedly, the others can sustain you while you adapt.
Okay, that makes sense. And acceleration.
This is where it gets exciting. If you've truly mastered sign 5, living below your means.
You have that gap, that margin.
Yes. And if you take all the income from your second, third, or fourth stream and direct it straight into investments or paying down debt aggressively, you achieve wealth accumulation much, much faster. It's not just your primary income compounding, you're adding significant extra fuel to the fire. It creates exponential growth potential far beyond just relying on market returns from one source.
Okay, but let's connect this back again. To effectively manage multiple income streams, maybe a job, plus a side business, plus investments, doesn't that require incredible time management?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It brings us back to sign 4, valuing your time.
You need to have already invested in those efficiency tools and systems, simplified your life, maybe delegated some things, just to have the sheer bandwidth to juggle multiple ventures without completely burning out.
You absolutely must. Running 2 or 3 things effectively requires extreme discipline, sign 8, and ruthless time management, sign 4. The habits are all deeply integrated. You can't really succeed with one without the other supporting it.
And very often, I imagine, getting those other streams going or scaling them involves other people.
Very often, yes. Whether it's partners, employees, clients, investors, which require strong relationships, social capital, which lands us squarely on the final, crucial sign in this execution phase. Sign 7. You build networks, not just contacts. And the source material seems to really emphasize this distinction. Yes, the difference is fundamental, and people often confuse the two. So
what is the difference? Contacts versus network?
A contact in this context is largely transactional. It's someone whose name is in your phone or whose business card you collected at an event. You might call them when you need something from them. It's often superficial.
Okay, and a network?
A network, as defined here, is a web of genuine, reciprocal relationships. It's built on mutual trust, shared value, and a long-term perspective. The focus isn't just what can I get, but genuinely, what value can I offer this person? How can we help each other succeed over time?
So building a real network is more like an investment of your time, your energy, maybe sharing your own expertise, making introductions, much like investing financial capital.
That's a perfect analogy. It's a long-term investment in social capital. And like financial investments, the payoffs aren't always immediate, but they can be immense.
What kind of payoffs are we talking about? What's the return on building a genuine network?
The return is often access. Access to things you can't easily buy or find on your own. Things like invaluable non-public information about market shifts or opportunities, access to crucial partnerships or collaborations, high-level advice and mentorship from people who've been there before, unexpected introductions to clients or investors.
So when you're taking one of those calculated risks, sign 3, and you inevitably hit a major roadblock, you don't just call a random contact from your phone. You reach out to someone in your genuine network, someone who is likely already invested in your success, even emotionally, because you've built that reciprocal trust. You've invested in them too.
Exactly. And the support system does two critical things. It dramatically mitigates the downside risk of your ventures because you can access help quickly, and it accelerates your problem-solving capacity exponentially. That's absolutely critical for scaling any kind of business or complex career path.
Wow, so it really implies that the strength and maybe the quality of your network can actually determine your ultimate ceiling in terms of wealth and impact.
I think that's a fair assessment based on the sources. A weak transactional contact list limits your access to capital, to high-level ideas, to critical feedback, to mentorship. A strong reciprocal network acts like an invisible safety net and simultaneously serves as a constant source of leveraged opportunities you'd likely never find on your own.
Okay, that really ties everything together. We've covered a lot of ground.
We have the full framework.
Yeah, the full strategic framework. We started with that mental scaffolding, the inner game thinking, long-term, taking responsibility, valuing your time above money.
The foundation.
Then we built the engine of growth on top, that obsession with learning, taking those calculated risks, not being afraid to fail and learn, and focusing on solving big problems.
The driving force.
And then we layered on the execution phase, the discipline to live below your means, the self-discipline to stick with the plan, the strategy to seek multiple income streams, and the wisdom to build genuine, leveraged relationships. And what hopefully comes across from synthesizing all this is the core message from the source material. These 12 things aren't just random good habits someone thought up. No, they're interconnected.
They are the fundamental, interconnected behavioral foundations upon which lasting wealth is typically built. And importantly, they are almost entirely within your control.
And that feels like the critical takeaway for you listening right now. Financial freedom isn't usually some lottery ticket event. It's a system. It's built habit by habit. And even if you feel like, wow, I only really do 3 or 4 of these things right now, that's okay. You can start building the others. You can make a conscious choice today to start simplifying your repetitive decisions to free up that mental capital we talked about.
A small change with big impact.
Or you can choose today, the next time you face a setback, to consciously frame it as a necessary lesson, a data point, not a crushing defeat. That's a choice in perspective.
Absolutely. And that actually leads us to one final thought. A provocative question, maybe, to leave you with, something that builds on everything we've discussed today.
Okay, let's hear it.
We established pretty early on, and came back to it multiple times, that time is arguably your single most valuable, non-renewable resource.
Right, sign 4. If that's truly the case, then think about this. What is the single non-financial habit among these 12? So we're talking about things like the obsession with learning or taking responsibility or building networks or self-discipline. Which one of those yields the greatest, most immediate return on your invested time? Okay. The highest leverage non-financial habit in terms of time ROI.
Exactly. And then how does committing deeply, profoundly to that one habit starting today potentially accelerate the development of all the other 11 habits over the next, say, 5 years? How could focusing there make your entire journey not just more likely to succeed, but structurally sounder, faster?
That's a fascinating question. Which one creates the most momentum for the others?
We won't answer it for you, but we'll leave that question hanging for you to consider as you go forward. Think about which habit unlocks the most potential in the others and start building your own foundations from there.